Hello everyone and welcome to KDH art class. So I've been focusing on taking basic shapes and showing beginners how artists, through all our little secrets that we learn along the way, change it into three-dimensional looking objects on our paper. So artists have been able to take something that looks very flat, like a shape on a paper. Remember, paper is two-dimensional. It is wide and tall. If you turn it sideways, you can't see anything because it's just a piece of paper. Or maybe you're working on a canvas or something like that. A three-dimensional shape, and I keep using this little guy here. Basically, you can see how wide he is. Remember our paper, how wide. How tall he is. Remember our paper, how tall. But when you turn it sideways, you can see how thick he is. Okay? So we got the height, the width, and the depth. The depth is how thick he is. Okay? So we can see him this way, and that way. So how do artists make that happen on a flat piece of paper? Well, in one of my lessons, we talked about turning squares into a cube, which then we made look like a box using things like a vanishing point, horizon line, value, knowing where our light source is, all of that, just to kind of touch on all these little basics that create these artworks. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about the triangle. Well, you can already tell I did not add the bottom of my triangle. All right. Because this particular triangle, I'm going to turn it into a cone, and it's then going to look more like a party hat when we're done. So, on your piece of paper, you're going to go ahead and find something you can use as a straight edge. Or a straight edge could just simply be, a piece of cardboard, something that has a nice straight line that you can use to draw a straight line with. Many times I use my notepad. I got all kinds of notes here of things I want to learn and do while I'm at home, spending a lot of time without my students. It's so hard. I miss their feedback. I miss their aha moments and the energy that they give me. But I digressed. Let me come back to what we're talking about. We're going to turn this triangle into something that looks three-dimensional, learning the basics. You need the straight edge. Right? I'm going to use this clear one. I think it's easier to kind of understand what I'm doing with it when you can see through versus when I cover it up completely with the solid. Keep an eraser nearby. Pencils, you notice I have like two of them. I discovered this eraser doesn't work very good on this pencil. It's old, like me, so I appreciate it. Alright, so I made my upside down V or the start of a capital A on my paper. Now normally a triangle you would close off with a straight edge here. With this, because it's going to be a cone, and I chose this because I want to really help you understand why we talk to you about all these different things when we're creating something. It just, a lot of times, we're in a hurry and we sit there and say, okay, you're going to make it into a cube and this is how you're going to do it, but then you go, what do I do with that cube? Well, here we've already created it into a box. Like I said, this one, we're going to create it into like a little party hat, and in the next couple videos, there's going to be additional shapes, and then at the end of those shapes, I'm going to start showing how to make these shapes useful when creating new things, be it cars, houses, you know, self-portraits, you know, pictures of people, pictures of animals, all that stuff. Okay, let's begin. Alright, so from here, we're going to need to make like a little smiley face. To kind of help it be a little bit more symmetrical, I'm going to make like a little dot near the middle. And then I'm slowly going to go out from there and slowly come in. And I started so light, you probably have a very difficult time seeing it. Okay. And now that I did it light till I got it right, I'm going to darken it. And again, just little short little lines. I'm not trying to do it in one hard pushing line. It doesn't work. Okay, as I'm getting closer, now I'm going to, as you can see, it's okay to turn your paper. Press a little bit harder, following my lines. To create a curved bottom to my cone. Right. Now again, it's already starting to look like a party hat, but it's just the outline. Alright, so we've changed it from the start of a triangle and we're focusing on the cone. So we need it to be three-dimensional. Just like when I was working with my other shapes, there's a few things artists think about. Where is our light source? Okay, what is a light source? A light source could be the sun, or it could be a lamp. It could be wherever the brightest part is shining down. Alright, so if this is my sun, my light source, everything is going to be shining this way. If I had it up here, which is a little more difficult, you know, everything would be shining down. If it was over here, it would be shining this way. If it was a little bit lower down here, it would be shining, and it would affect the shadow. So the next thing I like to do when dealing with my little cone party hat is I need to ground it. I need to put it on the ground somewhere. And I'm not going to start down here where the corner is. I like to break it up a little bit and come across here. Generally you don't need to do a straight line, but since I happen to have a straight edge here. Alright, now my party hat is on something. It could be a table, it could be the windowsill, it could be on top of a cake, you know. It's on something because this is the horizon line. So over here was our light source. This is the horizon line. Ooh, I hope I left room. And this basically tells us that this is the background. And below this line is the foreground. Alright, foreground, the F, I tell the kids it's what's in front. Background, what's in back of it. So you got the front and the back. There's also a middle ground, but right now all we really need is foreground and background. Light source. So now let's talk about value. Value is one of our essential elements, and value is how dark or light a color is. Okay? All of these pencils are blue. their value is different. This is a dark blue. This is a medium blue. This is a light blue. Okay? The value is different even though the color is the same. Blue, blue, blue. Light blue, medium blue, dark blue, and they all have their fancy names. Okay? Same with the greens, the oranges, the purples, the pinks, you know, value, how dark or light. Since we're just focusing on the pencil, we're going to do everything in a gray value scale. Now value is how dark or light, so you know if you're doing a quick little value scale here, pressing as dark as you can, that would be the dark. Okay. Then you have your medium, okay. And then you have your light. And then I always tell the kids the paper is your whitest, you know, when you're talking about this. So you have your lightest to darkest and, you know, what's in between. And there are lots of different values you can do. That's just 4. Alright, so I'm just trying to keep it simple so you understand. Now, let's get to our little secrets. So, the sun is shining. And I have kind of a pointy shape here. Actually, I don't think I did that the right direction. Alright, I want to come from this little side and trying to see how much of it I can get in there. Alright, I am falling off the paper. Perfect. Like I said, I knew that was going in the wrong direction. Practice, practice, practice. I have not done this in a while. Okay. So, this, my friends, is the shadow. Our cone is creating a shadow. Our shadow is going to be our darkest value. So taking your pencil, this is the easiest part. Slowly put, you know, be careful right here near the lines of your shadow. You can go faster inside, but when you get near your edges, you want to slow down and you want to kind of go in the same direction. I also don't use the very tip of my pencil. I start laying it sideways to soften up my value, my shadows. And I'm just working. Nice and slow near the edges. And turning my paper to make it a little bit easier. Oh, this is going to take a few seconds here. I have my students warm up with a drawing video before we begin class, and it's usually a how-to follow along for them. And I usually pick 2 different videos, one for kinder through 2nd grade and one for my 3rd through 5th graders, which is a little bit more challenging. And they kick into that time lapse, and my students are like, how are they drawing that fast? And I think it's so cute, but no. One, I'm still learning how to do this YouTube. I will eventually learn how to do time lapse, and then watch out world, there's going to be more time lapse and more complex videos. But you're safe right now. I don't know how to do that yet. I know it's super easy. It's just one step at a time. Alright, and let me go ahead and finish this off. Again, that is our darkest value. There's our shadow. Alright, just from the horizon line and the shadow, we're already starting to see our shape. Okay. Again, our light source is going to be kind of shining on this part of our cone. So that means about lightly here so I don't do it too much. I hope you're seeing this okay on the video. I don't like doing straight lines like this, but this is our practice one. We're already writing words on it. We're making notes to remind us how to do this. It's okay to have the lines. So this is going to be this light value. That's where the sun is shining the brightest on our cone. Okay, now we need to go to this value. Okay. It's going to be somewhere in here. Okay. Don't forget your next value. Okay. Somewhere in there. And then you have your darkest value. And the reason is because it's rounding. The light travels in a straight line, but it does radiate out. So it's able to go a little bit around the corners as it spreads out or radiates. So that's why it's not just dark and light the whole time. There's the different values in between. Alright, so we said this is light. This is this value here. Now, because this is curved at the bottom, I want to do kind of curved lines when I'm shadowing. Okay. So you'll be able to see it best over here. Kind of curved. You don't want to use straight lines. Not on this one. Right. Make sure it's curved. So when I have this, all of my lines, when I'm shading and coloring, are going to curve like little smiley faces. Again, it doesn't look good when you go straight across. It keeps it very flat looking. Where this, the curve will help. Alright, since I have difficulties making my smiley faces, I like making rainbows. I'm going to turn my paper. Alright, we said we're going to go with this lighter value. So as I'm working here, and I'm even going to go into my white area a little bit, as well as the darker area. I'm actually going to cross that line. I want to get rid of that line a little bit, and I don't want it to be a straight line. That doesn't look right. So I'm letting some of these be longer, some of these be shorter. And again, rainbow, 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 rainbow. And go back over some of these spots so that you can see it a little bit better, but rainbow, rainbow. As we're working our way up to the top. Again, this is beginner. There's much more to this to make it more realistic. This is beginner. Okay, let's move on to this next value, which is going to be even darker than that one. And just like I did with that lighter one, I'm going to cross that line. Into my lighter area as well as my darker area. Again, smiley face, using kind of the side of my pencil as much as possible, not the very tip of it. The tip is how I made these lines. I'm now using the side of my lead to do these. And I'm changing how hard I am pushing onto the pencil and where is my hand on the pencil. Okay. The lighter I want it, the more I scoot my hand back. The darker and more controlled I want it, the closer I scoot up. Okay. Alright, almost done with this one. Rainbow, 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 or if you're doing it this way, smiley face, smiley face. I don't like saying frowny face. I'm one of those happy-go-lucky, optimistic type people. Can't help myself. I do have a dry sense of humor, so I will make those ridiculous little comments, and they're so ridiculous you can't help but laugh at it. And I'm a teacher in a public school. You have to have a sense of humor. If you don't have a sense of humor, you are not going to survive the public school. You know, the kids nowadays, they're going to be less than polite to you, and you're just going to have to be able to laugh at it. If you get your feelings hurt and you just want to ball up into a little ball and cry, you're not going to make it, guys. Alright. Kids, sorry, I'm telling all your secrets. Alright, that leaves me with the darkest value over here on this side, furthest from the sun. Okay. Notice I already started to scoop my fingers forward. Now what I am going to make sure is I'm not going to go as dark as my shadow. I want to keep my shadow darker than my value here. And I also have this difficulty of it being on the edge, so it's going to be difficult for me not to cross that line. Yes, you can come back and erase and clean it up. But why give yourself extra work? Okay. Alright, this one, because it's so skinny, I'm going to do a little cheating thing I do. And I'm going to do part of the coloring in the wrong direction, up and down. And then I'm going to come back in and give the texture of this rainbow smiley face direction afterwards. So here I come in and I'm going to start giving that little curved cross contour line that gives that roundness. That we need for it to really start showing that it's a curve, not a straight flat surface. Okay, let's turn her around. Now I have a little bit of an overlapping here, and again with practice you'll start to smooth that out. So I'm doing basically a zigzaggy little line like this. Oh, here, let me do it darker so you can see it, like a zigzaggy line like this. But the difference is it's there's no spaces in between, and it's starting to soften it. Now there's some other ways to do this. If you're lucky enough to have a blending tool, which of course I do not have one here at my house, but a lot of my students, they get those drawing kits, and it's got a bunch of different pencils and they all have different numbers on it. They all know the number 2 pencil. That's the one they use at school. Well, each one of these numbers tells you how dark or light, again that value, of that pencil. And you can get, I forgot what all the numbers are, but each number, when you do the same pressure, let's just say I'm going to do this kind of line with each pencil that I use, and I do that same pressure, this is going to be a different value. And it's because how soft or hard they pressed that graphite in there. So with that kit, you'll get this, it's usually a white looking piece of paper that has a pencil point on it. That is your blending tool. So our hands have oil on it. Beginners, I don't mind you taking your finger And again, rubbing, just like that little smiley face, back and forth to soften up your blend. You see, that's why I don't like doing those lines, but again, it's a learning process. This is our learning page. Okay. Now that we know about where it should be, we should not need to draw those little lines. You start getting that graphite on your finger. The problem is the oils on our fingers are getting on our papers, and it's not going to be as smooth. But guys, if you're a beginner, this is great. All right? You don't have a blending tool. The blending tool does not have oil, so it doesn't mess up your paper. It doesn't put the oil on your paper, which kind of makes it bumpy looking or scratchy looking and stuff like that. All right. We don't. If you're like me and you don't have it, you don't have it. All right, because my big fat fingers went outside of the lines, I need to clean up my lines with my eraser. I can even come in here and kind of take away some of that dark line that's driving me mildly crazy. And as I take it away, come back in with my finger, blending tool if you have it, and kind of smooth it out. It's not going to be easy to get rid of those little lines, especially as hard as I pressed on them for you to see. But since my fingers are messed up, I'm going to go ahead and make my foreground a different color than my background. So I did this horizon line. I tell my students at least change the color, or, because we're not using color here, the value. Oop, I know you guys saw that. And that's where my oily fingers are going, no, no, no. Let me mess up this picture for you. Okay. Even if it's slightly, it does help that 3-dimension going on. So, once again, we started with what was a 2-sided triangle. No such thing, because you need 3 sides. We went ahead and closed it off with a smiley face, turning it into a cone. Once we turned it into a cone, we are now ready to turn it into a party hat. So my party hat is going to have this little pom-pom on it. And you'll notice I'm just making little C shapes, always starting in where it's connected to the party hat. And this could also be like a little clown hat, or I don't know, change it up kind of like the volcano. And again, going in different directions. It's not all going, some of them shorter, some of them longer. Just like the shorter ones are coming towards you, the longer ones are sticking out. Okay. Then you can even come in here and start doing, if you like, your little polka dots on your party hat. Give it a different value for the polka dots. A little edge there. And you can even trace around. Something. Notice I just kind of sit here and do circle, circle, circle until I like it. Unit wider in some areas, and then get smaller and smaller on my circles to shade it. So starting out at the outside and then smaller and smaller. So you can start making your little party hat. You can also add your little string that's going to come out and you attach it to your chin. But congratulations! You now went from a two-dimensional triangle to a three-dimensional looking object on your paper. Have fun creating. You can bring in the different colors going right on top of your shading. Remember, this is just practice. The more you practice, the better you get. Right? And don't be afraid to try something new. Have fun creating, and don't forget to subscribe to KDH Art Class, where there are more lessons online for you to try.